First of all, I just want to thank every single one of you for being here. What a blessing to be able to be in the presence of such amazing people like Sherry and Dr. Tony and some of the other people that are going to speak today. I really hope by the end of today that you have the full grasp of how powerful this event is going to be in your life. Because if you take this information and you take this hope with you, you might not ever notice the difference, but your life will never be the same. And you will have a powerful journey, especially if you're struggling with anything. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Brett Gschwend. I'm a chiropractor in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And I practice a whole lot of things. And today we're going to focus on a little bit of what I practice and a little bit about what Sherry shared with you guys. And it's going to be focused on the mind, because the mind is where healing starts in a certain way. And we're going to be covering a lot of things throughout that. So I'm going to try to take a lot of complex things and understandings and try to make them simple and easy to understand. How much time do I have? What time do I have? So 20 minutes? Okay. We'll have to go pretty quick. Alright. So just bear with me. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So, it might seem like we're kind of going off in different directions throughout this presentation, but just stay with me. At the end of it, we're going to bring it all together and have an understanding of why it's important for you to even know it. And it's going to be a good segue, I think, into hearing the knowledge that Dr. Tony is going to bring to us. So, the mind, it can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And knowing the difference in that makes the difference in you controlling the outcome of your life and it being controlled by circumstances, right? And that's important to distinguish because we have more control than a lot of us think. The first thing we need to get into is mindset. First, we have to know that we have that capability to affect our lives and our body that way. So, mindset. It's a fixed mental attitude or disposition that predetermines a person's responses and interpretations to situations. Okay, I like this one a little bit better. It's a little more simple. The thought processes, inclinations, or habits characteristic of an individual or group. So you can have an individual mindset or you can have a group mindset, right? So let's look at the different types of mindsets. We have a growth mindset. Is anybody in here familiar with the differences in mindset? Growth versus fixed mindset? Perfect. So, a growth mindset is a mindset based on the knowledge that you're not fixed in where you're at. You're not stuck in an understanding. You're not stuck in a certain place. You're not stuck with certain beliefs or limitations, that you can always grow beyond those, right? Someone with a growth mindset understands that to grow, to change your circumstances, you have to step into discomfort. You have to get outside of your comfort zone and expand. You expand your mind, you expand your life, you expand the things that you do, the things that you learn, right? You can always change. So an example of that is if there's a situation in your life that is difficult, number one, you're going to grow from that situation, but you have to recognize that and use that to move forward and get past it until you get to the next obstacle that's going to grow you some more. And like Sherry said, you never quit. You're on that journey for life. So continue to expand through that. Someone who lives that way is someone who maintains a growth mindset, right? And if you want to have that full life, full of vitality, a growth mindset is one of the starting places. Okay? And I love this quote by Oliver Wendell Holmes. One's mind, once stretched by a new idea, never regains its original dimensions. And this is true. If and I can speak on this from experience. Once you have a new experience or you learn something that is different than what you knew before, you'll never go back to that belief if that's where you're supposed to be, right? And that's awesome, because it's just taking steps up a ladder to a certain understanding about life, about belief, about love, about anything that you can think of, right? So what's the contrast? It's a fixed mindset. Someone with a fixed mindset is someone who doesn't think they can change, who doesn't think growth is possible. It's the people who say, well, that's just how I am, and that's the way it's going to be. Right? We all know people of both sides of that coin, right? But people who are stuck in a fixed mindset, it's harder for them to move forward because they set the roadblock in front of them. They put their own limitation up that doesn't allow them to move forward and get over that hurdle, get past that obstacle, right? So what I'm hoping today is if any of you guys fit more into the fixed mindset and think that things can't be changed, I hope we kind of move on to the other side of the coin, because that's the only way to move forward, especially when it comes to healing, cancer, and that's what we're all here about, right? So I'm not going to read this quote, but if you can read it, it's a pretty fun quote, and everybody recognizes her and that mindset. Not that this is bad or she's a bad person, but it's just a mindset that keeps someone stuck in their place, right? So we want to get past that. So I want to get into a little bit of information on how the mind works. That's a vital understanding that we need to know to utilize our mind to the best of its capabilities, right? So we have the unconscious, the subconscious, and the conscious mind. We can break that down in a different understanding of foundational mind, the filtering mind, and the working mind. Does anybody know the distinguishment of those already? Perfect. Lovely. So the unconscious mind, or the foundational mind, that is the mind that is built up of your biology, the things that you learn from your parents, the things that are instilled at a very early age, right? That's what sets the foundation of how we understand and interpret reality, right? And then you have the filtering mind. That's the in-between. That's the one that takes the experiences of life, applies it to the foundational mind, and makes sense out of it in order to send it to that working mind to make decisions, to take actions, to figure out what to say. Does that make sense so far? So what we want to realize then is sometimes the information in our foundational mind might be false. It might be limiting us. So when we know that the working mind, that conscious mind, can make those changes, we can do that intentionally. And we can start to shape how our mind works. If we have bad habits, if we have certain parts of ourselves that we don't like, we can change that. But you have to do it intentionally, and you have to do it consistently, because that foundation is very strong. And if it's ingrained, you have to do a lot of work to get over that, right? And you'll understand why that's important in a little bit. So, mind happiness is kind of a relatively new term that people are getting into in according to this science, which is somewhere in the realm of psychology, with a little bit of blur into spirituality in some cases. So before you can do that, you have to understand how the brain receives information, right, through the five senses. The most important that we're going to discuss is your vision and your hearing. So why is that important? That's important because we control what we see and hear to a certain extent, right? So let's take an example. When you turn on the TV and you look at, or you watch the news, say CNN, what do you see on those type of channels? What do you see in the reality TV shows? We'll just sum it all up as negativity, right? If that's what you're exposing your brain to, if that's what you're allowing to come through your senses, that is operating in that filtering mind as a part of your reality, and you're choosing that, right? But when you choose to let that in, Most of us don't understand how deeply that affects us, right? But let's look at the other side of that. What if the only thing we allow to come into our senses, through our eyes and through our ears, is messages of love, of faith, of joy, of gratitude, right? What if that's all we were exposed to? How could you ever be down? How could you ever be sad, no matter what the circumstances are? Does that make sense? So we want to use those principles to our advantage, and we need to choose and be conscious and intentional of what we're allowing to come into our mind and into our brain, because in a way that shapes the perception of what we understand about reality, what we see in our life, what we experience, the decisions that we make, the thoughts that we think, right? You can start to control that more and more. And that's what I'm going to challenge you to do with this information is, for example, if you get on Facebook and you're scrolling through there and you're seeing a bunch of people's negative complaints about their problems, block those people. You don't need that in your life. That does not add any value to you. But if you can have messages on Facebook that says things about how loved you are, how amazing you are, things that are educational, then Facebook becomes a tool rather than a negative distraction, right? So that's my challenge for all of you if you're on Facebook. Start to change the information that you're feeding your mind, because it is affecting your life every single day, right? So something else we need to understand is what motivates you, what motivates the mind to come into action. And I'm not going to get too deep into the physiology of this, but I'm sure everybody's familiar with what dopamine is, right? Dopamine is a chemical in the brain that's released during the anticipation of reward. This is something else that we can utilize to our advantage, and that's part of the reason why it's called brain hacking when you get into neuroscience. But let's look at Facebook again. Facebook releases dopamine every time you're on it, and that's why people are addicted to it. Every addiction is a loop of dopamine in the brain, right? So when it's hard for you to quit something, it's because that loop exists. But you can change that loop. You can send it somewhere else. So how many people in here, and please raise your hands, how many people in here know someone who dropped a bad habit and switched it for a good one? An addiction. They quit smoking and start working out. They quit emotional eating and start becoming addicted to knowledge, right? Addictions are only bad if they're bad habits. But addictions in that way can also benefit your life, and you can utilize it to your advantage. And it keeps you moving forward, and it keeps you motivated to continue to do those things and to continue to grow in that growth mindset. Does that make sense? So let's look at how the mind is also like a computer. And all of these are just analogies. None of this is how the mind actually works, but it makes sense. Okay? So the way that the mind works is that it receives the information and it processes and sends that information out. Right? Just like a computer. Gets information, stores it in the hard drive, carries out a command. Right? So our mind then is like the motherboard of that computer. It's what controls the whole process of the system. It controls what comes up on the screen. It controls what comes in through the keyboard. The same way our mind and our brain controls what we put in it and how that gives you an output. Dr. Tony is I'm sure, going to get into full spectrum nutrition. It applies the same way. What you get in is what you put out. Right? Cause and effect. The mind works the same way that a computer works. So, also the same way that a computer works, when you start getting useless data built up on that hard drive, it starts to get slow, and it starts to create problems. Has anybody ever experienced any technology problems from a slow computer? Everybody, I'm sure. So, our mind does the same thing. When we fill our mind with useless data, useless information, it bogs down the system because it's just taking up space that doesn't add health or vitality or life force to our system, right? So, what do you do about a computer when it does that? Some of us might take care of that ourselves and defrag and clean up the disk and things like that. Some people might send that to someone who knows what they're doing. But either way, that computer cleans out the information that it doesn't need, and it works better. We can do the same thing. We can do that with nutrition. We can do that with all the other things that Dr. Tony's going to talk to us about in regards to cancer, so I won't get into that because I'm sure he will do a lot better job than me. But another thing that we can do is intentionally get rid of the information that's bogging our system down. Whether it's the things we already talked about, like getting rid of the negativity in your life, or it could be getting rid of things like the resentment that we've held for years, the guilt that we've held for years, the hate, the fear, all of those things. If you have those in your mind, that is a choice. And it's not affecting anyone else but yourself, right? And it's not affecting them in a good way. So you have to be able to clear those out. You have to clean out the hard drive for you to be able to function at a higher level, right? So, something that is also doing, not only is it slowing our system down, but it's stealing our life from us. It steals that vital energy that animates us, that creates that lively energy that we have to have, right? So, does it make sense then when we can clear out the garbage that doesn't serve us, then our life force starts to come back up. And you'll understand a little bit more here in a while why that's actually important. But what if we not only get rid of those things that don't serve us, but we also put in their place something that does? Forces that give us energy, that give us life, that give us that to such a certain extent that we can spread that and shower that into others, right? That's what a healer does. That's what a prayer team does. That's what happens. So what do we replace it with? There's a few: joy, gratitude, love. These are some of the most powerful emotions that you can experience. Has anyone ever really just sat down and taken the time, 15, 20 minutes, to go through your mind and think about all of the things that you're grateful for? Not just to think about it, but to feel it. To feel it so deep that you get chills and you start to feel your heartbeat and you start to get emotional for no reason. What if you did that every single day? And you filtered out all of the things, all of the emotions, all of the trash that's pulling your life force out, and you replaced it with gratitude and love. And you do that every day, and you get that feeling every day. That's where healing starts, with yourself, right? And you can expand that and practice that and get so good at that hopefully you'll never need a doctor for anything, because you don't damage the systems. Most of our diseases these days are self-inflicted, and most of us don't even know it. But it's in our hands, and this is part of where it starts, right? So, I want to do a little exercise real quick, if you guys don't mind. I want you guys to feel it right now, and I want it to be real time, because we can conceptualize it. We all just conceptualize it, but I want you to feel it. So, let's go ahead and close our eyes. And I want you to just hold in your mind something or someone that you love the most. It can be a person, it can be a memory, whatever you want it to be, but just think about that. Feel it. Go deeper and deeper into that and let it expand. Let's shift that into going through gratitude. It can be of the same thing, or it can be some other things that we're truly grateful for. It can be whatever you want it to be. Feel that gratitude. Let that surface from wherever it is. Okay. So you can open your eyes. Do you feel a little bit better? Do you feel a little happier? Do you have a little bit more of a lifted spirit? And that was just 30 seconds. What if you could do that every single day, intentionally? Make it a non-negotiable. Do it before you go to bed. Do it before you wake up or after you wake up. And some of you might already do that in prayer. I'm sure most of you do. But if you don't, then I'm telling you, you're stealing life, or at least not giving yourself the full potential of life, energy, and force that you could be given it just from that simple exercise that we can practice every day. Right? So let's get a little bit deeper into the science of that. Who's heard the concept of the magnetic mind? Or our minds have magnetic potential, or work like magnets, or are part of an electromagnetic spectrum. Is that new for most of us? Awesome. Okay, so we all know how magnets work. It creates a force that has polarity, right? Just picture your body, your heart, your mind as being a big magnet, okay? It repels things and it attracts things, right? Let's give another example of that, just to make some clarity here. It's often invisible. Most of us can't experience that, right? Like gravity. We know it's there. We can feel it, but we can't see it. We can't hear it. We can't touch it, right? The way that electromagnetism works in the body is the same way. It's a force. Most of us can't see it or hear it or sense it at all. There's some who can. Most of us can't, but it's there. And when we know this, we can utilize that to our advantage. The same way that we can utilize it with controlling what goes in and out of our minds. Right? So, give you a few examples to make sure everybody understands what I'm saying. So, one example is whenever you feel like somebody's watching you, but nobody's there, right? Has everybody had that experience? Or you feel someone's intentions, you don't know somebody, but you can just tell for no reason that their intentions aren't very good. You don't really want to be around that person, right? That's part of that force, right? We're picking up on that energy exchange, that information exchange. Does that make sense? So what's the contrast of that? Have you ever been around somebody that radiates love so strongly that you can almost feel it? You sense that person is just pure love, purely divine, and has your best intentions at heart? Some of the healers in the room tonight, that's part of their power. Does that make sense? So, it's all that, if you were to sum it all up, it's just information. An electromagnetic force, but it's just information. Right? Who has heard of Dr. Emoto? Awesome. So Dr. Emoto is a researcher who did an experiment on water, the intentions of water, or in water. So what he did was he took some water and he put intentions into it, wrote it down, taped it on the bag or the whatever it was contained in, prayed over it, or put intentions into it. And then he froze that water and looked at it under a microscope. And this is some of the things that he saw. All those look different, right? Wouldn't you think that when water freezes, it would all look the same? The crystals? That's perfect geometry right there. That's symmetry. Right? I don't know what these are specifically, but some of the things that he prayed into this water was, I love you. Thank you. Right? You make me happy. Those are all informational forces going into that water. Right? And that information is what created the different structures here. Right? But he also did the opposite. He programmed or intended into some of that water, I hate you. You disgust me. What do you think that water looked like frozen? It didn't look like this. Right? So, we may be wondering, what does all this have to do with why I'm here? We're going to get to that, I promise. So, what that has to do with that is our bodies are the majority of water. Right? 70%, 80% for the young ones, maybe lower for, older individuals. But are you seeing the connection of why that's important? When we look at intention, when we look at what we think and what we say to ourselves, what we project onto other people, right? It makes a physical change. It's not just here. There's a real force of information that happens that you are 100% in control of. So, let's look at it a different way. So, with water, that lowest level in regards to this is a crystal. The lowest level for us in regards to this is a cell. Right? We're made of billions, trillions of cells. So, does it make sense then that when we hold certain intentions, especially on a regular basis, intentionally, to the frequencies that match love and gratitude and joy, that those cells might have information that makes it function better? And then the opposite, if we either don't intend on of the thoughts that we're putting into our body, or we put negative thoughts into our body, can you see then how that can have a negative physical effect on the cellular level? Right? So, what magnetic forces, thoughts, intentions are you putting into your body? When you look in the mirror, what do you think? Do you think things like, I hate my body? If you're sick with Crohn's disease, I hate my intestines. If you have back pain, I hate my back. I got a bad back. What is that doing that most of us don't realize or didn't until now to the actual physical effect on our body? What if we looked in the mirror and said, I love you? What if we got into a prayer or a meditation and we focused on that part of us that needs healing and we send love to that? We express and we feel gratitude for that we have life in us, that we have a divine healing force from God that is designed to heal us if we open that door of opportunity for it. Right? A lot of times in this, especially in this country and our society, we close that door of opportunity down with what we put into our mouths, with what we put into our minds, the thoughts that we put into our bodies. Is it all coming together? So, what it all comes down to is really taking this information on a daily basis, putting in some non-negotiables that you do every day, no matter what, it's in your calendar, just as much as sleep, just as much as eating and breathing, the non-negotiable of prayer and meditation, an intentional thought of self-love and healing, right? That's what it's all about. And it starts with, number one, believing that you have that capability. That God's holding your hand the whole time, giving you the power to be able to do that. And what we're all here for today is to transfer that belief, if we are in a place of healing, or we have that compassion and responsibility to help other people who need healing, is that we believe in hope. We believe in hope. We believe in ourselves. We have faith. We believe in our healing team. Right? That's how it all comes around full circle, to where we don't just leave our health and our lives up to external circumstances and play reactive. We take that initiative to do what we can do on a personal level, in our minds and in our spirit. And God takes care of the rest, with putting you in places like this room to hear the message of healers who can help you along your journey. Right? I wish that all of you can really understand how excited I am for you guys. If this is the first time that you're hearing this information of what I just talked about and what Dr. Tony's going to talk about, because I promise you it's going to be something that you want to share with everybody, because there's no room for the disease and illness that we have in this country, because it shouldn't be there. And now that you're in this room, I challenge you to take that responsibility to share this information with people, to help them along their healing journey and guide them in the right direction for when they need guidance and hope. Right. Thank you guys for listening and playing along. I hope all of you have a wonderful day here listening and learning, and God bless you.